Welcome to Rising Tide Startups, where we chat with startup founders just like you from all over the globe. Each episode, we bring you practical and actionable tips to help you escape the cubicle and begin your own startup journey. Make sure you take notes. Take it away, Kevin.
Here's a quick word from our sponsor, Podbrand Media.
As a business owner, new sales leads are essential. At Podbrand Media, we create a branded podcast for you to generate those leads by interviewing your best potential clients as subject matter experts. Not only creating great rapport, but also great content to share in your industry. Affordable and effective. Contact us today at podbrandmedia.com to learn more.
This is Kevin Pruitt with Rising Tide Startups, and I have a great guest with me today, Luke Charlton. Luke, thanks for joining me on Rising Tide.
Pleasure to be here, Kevin.
So we were chatting just before we hit the big red record button. I told him, I said, I had this Australian fantasy or whatever that a few years ago where I was only interviewing people from Australia and New Zealand, and primarily Australia. I mean, for like 9 months straight. I mean, it was just just nothing but that area of the world. So it's one of my favorite digital locations or digital destinations. But Luke, if you and I were meeting at a networking event, how would you introduce yourself to me?
Well, I'd say, hi, my name's Luke. But if you're asking like, yeah, what do I kind of do in my business? Basically, in the simplest terms, so my target market is coaches. So I help coaches or high ticket service professionals to turn paid ads into high paying clients, right? So to take their offer and scale it basically using paid advertising. And I've been doing that since 2016, spent over $20 million on ads and scaled campaigns over $25,000 a day.
So nobody just wakes up one day and says, hey, I'm going to help coaches with their ad spend here. So go back a little further in the journey and walk us through kind of that serendipitous route that landed you in this.
Oh,
in this
man,
spot.
it's funny how you look back and you see your path, right? So yeah, so it's July, right?
Yep.
2023. And this month, 10 years ago, is when I left my full-time job to go out on my own. So it's 10 years to the month. I actually moved from Australia to London to live. I was there for about 12 months, and then I failed miserably so bad that I had to come back to Australia after 12 months because I ran out of money and actually was in a lot of debt in that 12 months. But when I was there, and so that time, including a couple of years after that, I was constantly trying like lots of different methods, and particularly the free methods. And I actually got one working. It was with LinkedIn groups actually. And I wrote a book on it, and no joke, the day that I was to release the book on Amazon, LinkedIn changed their policies overnight, and the strategy that I was using to get clients with their groups no longer worked anymore. Like literally, they just flicked a switch and rendered my whole strategy useless. And so I got kind of tired of chasing the organic strategies, and this is when Facebook was. This is over 2015. Facebook was just starting to like get like a name in the market. That was a good way to get clients. And I thought, you know what, I really want to learn paid advertising. And so I bought a course from this guy. And after a couple of months, he put a post in his private coaching community that he was hiring for his agency. So his name's Jason Hornung, and he's actually still a mentor of mine to this day. And so I applied for the gig. Out of 50 people, I got the role. And so basically I went from spending $20 a day on my own campaigns to like $100,000 a month, like literally overnight. I was just thrown in, and I was working with lots of high-level coaches, and it was a really great experience. And then after a couple of years with him, I went on my own back in 2018 to do my own agency and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of like a little bit of an insight into the path that led me to where I am today, running ads for coaches and high-ticket service professionals. Running their campaigns.
So many people want to kind of get in this gig, with paid ads and the space there. So there's like seems to be there's two schools of thought. There's one that says, here's a flat fee. I'm going to kind of manage your ad spend and let's see what we can do. The other says, pay me based on results, on what we get. So when you're first starting out, speak to coaches that are, further behind you in the journey that just are thinking about this or ad spend.
So coaches that want to, because I work with coaches that are like, health coaches or dating coaches or relationship. right?
No,
Are you
I
talking
didn't mean
about
to use the word coach. Sorry, I made
or
maybe
agencies?
agencies that are
Okay.
a little further behind you on the path, just getting started. What do you think
Yeah,
is the best way to kind of launch into this space?
that's such a great question. I would do exactly what I did. Again, that was as you know, serendipitous as you said before. Um, One of my biggest pieces of advice, like if I could, was this was 10 years ago, right? And I was
Yeah.
just leaving my job. I would literally find the top advertising agency and I would go work for them. It doesn't mean you have to be a full-time employee. Like with Jason, I was just a contractor,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I was still actually building my business in the background. I was working for him maybe like a couple of hours a day, not that much. So I was actually getting paid he was paying me, right, to run ads for his clients. Plus, I'm learning how to run paid advertising, which is an extremely valuable and in-demand skill, right? So I'm getting paid to learn this valuable skill. And so my knowledge just went like a hockey stick, right? And so my biggest piece of advice is like, if you're wanting to be successful, whether you want to get into an agency, even if you're just a regular coach that wants to be like a dating coach or whatever, or this also applies to other entrepreneurs, go and find like one of the top people in the industry and go, hey, I'm here to work for you, right? What's the Think and Grow Rich? I think there's a story in Think and Grow Rich where there's this guy, he wanted to go and work for Thomas Edison, I think it was. And he just showed up on his doorstep and he said, I'm coming to learn from you. And he just was persistent until he was given the job. And that's one of the biggest, I don't even know, it might be a secret, but what you have to understand about someone who's running a business is it's easy to find people, but it's very hard to find motivated people that want to work for you, right? Because you can train for skill, like training skills, like kind of the easy part. What's the Southwest slogan is like, hire for attitude, train for skill, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually much harder to find someone with a good attitude that's actually going to put in the work. If you show up on a very successful entrepreneur's doorstep and said, hey, I want to work for you, I know you're the best, here's why I want to work for you, I'm gonna, that is like music to their ears. That if you don't have any skill set, they don't care. That you can train skill, it's so much harder. So I would literally, if I was quitting 10 years ago, I would find, who do I look up to? I would just keep hounding them until they gave me a job. I wouldn't care. I would say, I want to be your advertiser. I want to be a coach for you. Train me. I've read this book of yours. I read this book. And I would literally just keep hounding them until they get so exhausted by you that they have to give you a job. And that you never see that in anywhere. Like, that's why I say it's actually quite easy to be successful if you're that persistent and focused.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No one is that.
They recognize
no
that
one is
too.
That.
They'll recognize that in you, as
exactly right. You're not going to be there for like 3 years banging on the door. Like they'll see, wow, this person is, they really want to work for me. I'll give them a job. It doesn't, so that's what I would do. I would go find someone who's successful, learn because the one other thing that I noticed is like that so valuable for me is I learned how Jason ran an agency with employees. So I saw all of his SOP. I used the SOPs the standard operating procedures, like checklists and stuff for stuff. I learned all of those and I use those in my agency to this day. And so there's a lot of other things that you will learn about, not just your own skills, but you'll be observing how a business, and you'll see like things that you really like, and then you'll see things that you don't like. But man, I would go work for someone, even as just a contractor, a couple of hours a day, learning from them. And then you can that accelerated my path, my path to success by, I don't know, a decade or so. I got the amount of money that I was spending on ads. If I went on that path alone and tried to get on clients, and I'd still be here 5 years later, not 5 years later. It's like 7-8 years later. I still would be kind of now just learning those skills that, that long ago, but it's just because that's how long it takes to build. So it's like it might feel like by working for someone else, you're taking a step back, but you actually are accelerating your path to success.
There's no doubt. And I think that, as you were kind of describing this, pound on the door until they finally give in, it's almost like they recognize in you the qualities that they had in themselves that kind of drove them to that space. But I I want to go back to something you said really early in the chat. You said, when I left my 9 to 5, walk us through that day. What was your mindset that
So
shifted
good.
you and said, hey, I got to bust out of here. I got to do
Oh,
something else.
I had left mentally like
You
6 months
quiet
before.
quit long before quiet quitting was even
Yeah,
a
I
thing.
seriously did. So it got so bad at the end that probably about every hour, the way I describe it is like a straitjacket on my soul. Like I just felt constrained. And
I love that.
every hour I would have to take a break. I was in IT, just like a support desk, IT analyst support desk for the Australian government. And I would stop every hour and I'd literally walk around the building and I'd do another hour of work because I got that bad of just how much I hated it. And upon reflection after many years, I realized the reason why I didn't like I really loathe that kind of work is because the first 6 months of a job would be great because you're learning and growing. And then in where I'm from Canberra, which is like kind of like Washington, DC. It's like the government. Yep. Everyone's got a government job. The only way you can move up in the government is if someone dies or if they retire. So basically it's a long time before you can actually move up. And so basically you're stuck in a role for many years and you're not growing. It's like monotonous every day. And for me, that was, I didn't realize at the time, but that was, I just hated living that way. And as you know, as an entrepreneur, business owner, like every day you're literally solving problems and growing. You're forced to grow, and it's stressful, but it's also very rewarding and it's fulfilling. So how I felt when I left that role, I felt free basically when I walked out that, if I can remember it now, walking out the building on that final day, it just felt like freedom basically. Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I think that story is so true so often. I mean, there are people that are wired to work for a 9 to 5 role. There's no doubt but there are some of us that are not wired in that way. And I have never heard it described like it was a straitjacket on my soul. Yeah. What a great way to describe, how you felt, especially in like you said, in the government sector where you really did feel trapped.
Yeah.
And now here's a quick word from one of our new sponsors on Rising Tide Startups.
Have you been wanting to start a podcast but not sure where to start? Well, now you can start a podcast in less than 24 hours. I'm David Ezell, and I'll walk you through all of the things that you need to get started today. Things like how to choose the right microphone, how to edit your audio, and how to find guests and build a pipeline of future guests. This course does a great job of keeping things high level while also diving into the things that keep most people from starting. Even better, if you use the code RISING at checkout, you'll get 20% off your purchase. But that's only if you use the code RISING at checkout. What are you waiting for? Start your podcast today.
Walk us through, like, we fast forward 10, 15 years in the future. Walk us through a typical day today. When you get up, what does your day look like, related to LukeCharlton.com?
So I go to bed I get up at 3:30, 3 o'clock every morning. But I got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and that's what they go to bed at about 6:30. And for many years, like I would go to bed at like 8, 9 o'clock, 9:30, like most people. But what I found is at about 7:30, my energy would just dive bomb. And so I thought, what, I'll just start going to bed with my kids. And I do, and I feel amazing because I'm like kind of more in sync with my rhythm. So anyway, I get up really early because I go to bed early. So I still get a good full night's sleep, but it's more in line. Like I feel wide awake and I have lots of energy in the morning when I get up. So I get up, I stretch for a little bit, then I go to the gym for about an hour. I've got the gym here at home, and then I go for a 6K run, probably about 5 or 6 times a week after the gym. That takes me till about 6 in the morning. And then I might check emails and do a little bit of work for like 30 minutes or so. And then I'll just get ready, like have breakfast with the kids. That's what time they wake up. And then from 8 till 12 is when I work. So I don't usually work after 12 p.m. So I spend the rest of the second half of the day with my kids. So I'm only really working in like focused between 8 and 12, Monday to Thursday. Don't really work Fridays. So.
And this is what, walk us through the 8 to 12 window. So what would that typically include?
So I've got a campaign manager, so she handles all the ad, like the physical uploading ads and launching them and stuff. So it's either client calls, maybe a couple of those a week. Like it's pretty okay. This is So if you had just asked me maybe two years ago, like my morning, I have like this checklist of things to do, right? And what I realized is, I kept it was like busy work. It wasn't really like, the way I describe it is kind of like leverage points. And I heard Tim Ferriss describe this. If someone watched him in his morning routine, they go, this guy's quite boring. He's not actually doing anything. And that's kind of like me. I don't have like this gigantic checklist of like I have things on my to-dos, but what I search for are the leverage points. Like what are the things that are going to move the needle in the biggest way? Okay, so I'll give you an example. This is where I get really annoyed with clients because they have this checklist of things. And so I'll give you an example. So I've got a client where he came to me a couple of months ago. He wanted me to help, again, turn paid ads into high-paying clients. And I was helped him write a VSL to do that. And VSL is it's like a 10-minute video where people opt in to watch the 10-minute video and then they book an appointment. And this worked amazing right away. We're getting appointments for $30, which in the market that he's in is the average is about $150. So he's getting it for way less. And he spent about $1,500 and made back $25K. And this is the beginning testing phase. So it's doing really well. Anyway, what he's having a problem with is just, people no showing, right? And so that's the leverage point, because if we can get more people showing, he's going to make more sales. But then he like came to me and he's working on all of these like retargeting ads and wanting to add extra cold ads to the campaign, where that's all good. Like we're getting appointments for $30. Like even if what he's doing is working at, let's say it brings the appointments down to $29.50, right? It's not worth his time. I said, dude, why are you spending your time there? This is a bigger problem. If we fix this, if we increase the show up rate by an extra 50%, you're going to get an extra 50% of revenue. Like that's the leverage point. And so the way that I create my to-dos now is, yes, I have little things that I would like to do. Like I'd like to create a little email sequence that when someone opts in, it says, hey, can you give me a review if you've been good, if you've enjoyed my podcast or whatever. Like this little 1% thing, is it going to get me 100 more clients? No, it's just like one of these nice to have to-dos, right? And that's what it's kind of like Brian Tracy's like, what's important, the important kind of, what's it in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Anyway, he's got that thing that he uses to decide whether something's important or not. But the way I describe it is a leverage. But it's like an 80-20. Like what's that small thing that is going to get you a big result? And the way that I determine that is through the numbers really in a funnel, right? So if something is underperforming, like the opt-in is too high, or if the salespeople aren't converting at the rate that they should be, then that's what we need to fix first. Don't worry about anything else. And this is why I get really annoyed with clients. They tell me that, like, I'm like, we just need to fix this part of the sales script. And like 2 weeks later, they come to me and I'm like, why hasn't this been fixed yet? This needs to be fixed. Like, why are you even why are you focusing on your course and fixing this little tiny lesson that you would really like to fix, when this is the thing that's going to, double your revenue or triple your revenue? So when you ask, like, what is my morning to do? It's actually like, it used to be kind of like, oh, I've got all this stuff to do, but I don't set up my morning that way because I don't like to be stressed out with all these little things. I'm like, okay, what's the one thing that I need to focus on this morning? So it's usually like maybe one or two things that I'm looking at, really, like kind of, and sometimes they're small, but they are leverage points. I don't know how best to describe it. Like maybe I can, like sales script. I've got another business that I run, a coaching business, and the sales script needs fixing. That's a leverage point because it's not converting as high as it should be. So on my to-do this morning, right at the top is just fix. There's a certain part of the sales script that I need to fix. So that's on my to-do. So I might do that this morning. Are there other things on here? Yeah, but they're not leverage points. So they're just like kind of on another. You just have like your leverage point to-do list, and then have your nice to have to-do list, and let that sit there and don't even worry about it.
But
That's
if you do the leverage points, I mean, those are the 80-20, the Pareto principles that are making the biggest difference.
Everything I do now is 80-20. Everything is that's the way that I think about it.
So
yeah, it saves me so much time. Like my mornings, you almost feel like you almost feel like I should be doing more, because we're entrepreneurs, we're so used to like busy. But if you're just focusing on, you can still be busy, but you can be busy focusing on the leverage points, and then take half the rest of the day off, knowing that you've done a really good job.
How many of those leverage points that you recognize, how many of those are data driven versus just insights that you just understand, kind of intuitively because you've been doing this for a while?
Yeah, so the first, so there's a couple of different levels, right? So when a coach comes to me and they've got, so I work with coaches that are already running ads and some that are not running ads at all. They just get clients through referrals. So with those people, we don't have data because they're not running any ads, right? So their leverage point is we need to look at their offer and fix their offer first, because that's usually, sometimes they've tried ads in the past, but they haven't been able to convert because they've got an offer problem. They don't know how to communicate their program in a way that that's what marketing is. So we fix that. That's kind of like the first leverage point, is get your offer right, and then let's put it in a system where we can drive ads to it, and then we can get some data. So the leverage point is like, okay, what's the opt-in page converting at? Then what is our cost per appointment? Then what are the salesperson, what are they converting at? So that's kind of like the next level. And then from there, the next, like usually, so I'm working with a solo coach, right? Then the next leverage point is less about the data, and it's more about them removing themselves from that and hiring people to be the salesperson or to run the ads, right? That's the next leverage point, is when you're creating processes so other people can jump into those roles, and so you don't have to be the one spending time on the calls or even delivering your program or delivering your product or your service. So that's the next leverage point, is you are not the cog anymore. It's the whole entrepreneur, what's that famous entrepreneur book, like working on your business, not in
E-Myth.
it.
Yeah, the E-Myth.
Yeah. And then, I was thinking about this the other day, like what's the next leverage point after that? Well, the next leverage point is once you're kind of at the top of your business and you've got your employees. If we're talking a pure finance thing, the next leverage point is that you become an investor. That's where you take your money and it works for you. That's the Robert Kiyosaki. I'm calling these book references.
Yeah.
I don't know what this called. Robert Kiyosaki's, his ESBI thing. The final part of the quadrant is the I. It's the investor, where you literally don't. I mean, you still have to kind of know where you're putting your money, so you have to be kind of savvy there and do your research there. But that's like the least time-intensive way to expand your wealth, is to put your money in the right spot, and then you get dividends or whatever that return is. But business owner is the best part for a business owner is to be right at the top of your company. So that's the leverage. That's that leverage point, is you want people underneath you.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting, all these references you're bringing out of our
entrepreneurial
books that you're using, but that's just a great segue to kind of my next question is this. I want to kind of give you a theory that I have about, entrepreneurial DNA. I think that there's a difference between entrepreneurs and business owners or business starter or business, those who run businesses, just president, CEO, whatever, that entrepreneurs really do have a genetic disposition to start things. It's almost this
I just started another
business.
I just started another business. Yeah.
How do you do you believe that's the case? It sounds like you just already have answered the question before I ask it, but the idea that entrepreneurs are kind of just naturally bent in that direction.
Yeah, it depends how you define entrepreneur. I think because that's such a word that you get like a solo business owner coach that calls themselves an entrepreneur, like on Facebook, So in the true sense of the word entrepreneur, an entrepreneur, yes, is someone that sees, really, it's like someone that sees a problem in the market and solves it with a business. That's all it is. So I wouldn't call an entrepreneur as someone who just starts one business, like is just an accountant, business owner. whatever, or just a solo coach, or even a coach that has employees under them. I wouldn't really consider, in the truest sense of the word, I wouldn't consider them an entrepreneur. I consider an entrepreneur as someone who has more than one business, basically, sees problems, solves it with the business, puts employees in place, isn't the main cog in their wheel. They understand how, so they're business savvy, plus they've got multiple, they use business to solve problems basically in the market. So
and opportunistic,
yes, exactly right.
Opportunistically ready to jump on those opportunities. But
yes, exactly
as you kind of transition from employee to employer, what are just one or two key lessons that you've learned over the course of kind of running your own business and leading others and mentoring them? So if you were talking to somebody starting out further behind you in the journey, what are regardless of the industry, what are a couple of things that would really be helpful?
Yeah, a couple of big ones. So I'll give you three. First one is when you hire someone for a role, be very clear with the expectations, like super clear, like this is exactly what I need in this role, because it's so much harder to bring those in later, right? People, if you come in and go, actually, I need you to do this, like here's the role, and you come in 6 months later and actually I actually need to be in at 8 instead of 8:30 or 9 is what I say. I need you to actually be available after hours to answer the, those like changing expectations halfway through the role is you may be justified in that because you need that for the role, but it's so much harder. So be very clear on the expectations when you hire someone. The next thing is have a process for literally everything, because as we discussed before, people won't treat your business the way that you treat it, unfortunately. And so I, have the view of like, keep it simple, stupid, like make it so it's so, literally have a process for everything is what I'm saying. Like, hey, like let's say your staff, one of their requirements is to do Zoom calls, right? I would have a process like, for every Zoom call, you need to be there 5 minutes early. You need to know this about the prospect. You need to open the Zoom call and you need to answer it. You need to, start the conversation this exact way. I want you to open it this way every single time, right? So have a checklist or a process, an SOP for literally everything in your business. Again, expectations, so that if they're not hitting those, because people, if they're not clear, they'll just kind of do their own thing, right? The employees. So if you want to be exactly, this is how we onboard new clients or new customers. This is how this package gets sent out. This is how we follow up. I know it sounds, it's the E-Myth thing, right? I know it sounds tedious, but once it's in place, this is how you scale a business. So this is how McDonald's, my first job was at McDonald's, and they have like a manual like this thick, like everything, and everything was a process, like how we made the burgers, how we wrapped the burgers, how we responded to managers when they asked for when's this burger ready. We responded to certain ways. How
many pickles are on a cheeseburger?
Sorry,
how many pickles
exactly
are
right
on
how many pickles are on the cheeseburger? How many squeezes of the tomato sauce, you guys call it ketchup, of the ketchup goes on the burger? Everything. So have that. Again, it comes back to expectations, but it also comes back to scalability. So when you have to get rid of someone, or you need someone for a certain role, everything is already mapped out for them. If they have any questions, that's your SOPs, your manuals are the first place they go, and then maybe you've got coaching calls for them or whatever. But yeah, there is a process for everything. So I said I'd give you 3. So what was the I lost the third one. It'll probably come to me as we keep talking. So so the first one was to set expectations. The second one was to have SOPs. Can you just remind me of the question again?
Just if you were talking to somebody further behind you to lead a business, what would be 2 or 3 just salient steps that you think would be helpful for them in leading well?
Well, the third one that I wasn't thinking before, but we already kind of discussed this, is you want to, and this is hard in the beginning when you're starting out, but hiring for attitude, right? So you notice at the top companies, like people want to work for the top companies like Apple or Mind Valley or Tesla or whatever, because there's good perks, and with a lot of those, there's good culture. So you want people that want to work for you. So I would think about, how do I create a business? Just listening to a YouTube video this morning and about In-N-Out Burger. And, a fast food restaurant is not generally a place where someone would see themselves as like doing a career, right?
Mm-hmm.
But In-N-Out Burger is such a great place to work. Apparently, I've never worked there. So they're in California, for those that don't know. And they're apparently such a great place to work that, like, they get paid well, they get treated really well. Their work is meaningful. They enjoy their job, that people actually treat this as a career. Like, and that's not usually associated with like a fast food restaurant, right. McDonald's or whatever. It's just like, I'll work here for a little while and earn some money, and then I'll leave. So thinking about, like, how can I create my business in a way where it is enjoy, and this is what I'm learning at the moment. Like, and this is what I don't like about the Zoom businesses, right? So the online businesses is, unfortunately, where I live, almost like a little bit remote in Australia. So it's to get good quality staff here where I am, it's quite hard. So I've kind of almost have to have an online business, and that can be a hard thing to create a culture with around, right? Because everyone's just at home doing their own thing, right? It is possible, but so either way, I would think about, how can I create a business that people actually want to work at? It's not all about just paying them. People will, it's great that you pay them well, but do they feel like they are contributing to the success of the business, as an example, right? Do you let them have their input, and then do you, does that get implemented into the business? Again, there should be a process.
And they recognize that. Employees certainly recognize that. And I love those three that, clear expectations, having written procedures, and really hiring, for attitude and train for skill. I mean, what a way to kind of wrap us up today. And Luke, I appreciate you taking time. It's been great to kind of jump in your world for a little bit. And I would love for you to tell people, where's the best place to find you online and find out more about your business.
Just go to LukeCharlton.com. So LukeCharlton.com. I have a lot of free stuff there. You'll see my blog there's like hundreds of pages of blogs, content. And yes, if you're a coach or a high ticket service professional, that's probably the best type of business owner that would want to maybe check me out. So just go to LukeCharlton.com, and there's lots of free trainings and content on there to help grow your business.
Well, I appreciate you taking that time, and we'll make sure that the contact information is in the show notes. And Luke, once again, just thank you for just sharing today and just really playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Luke, have a great day.
Thanks, mate. You too.
We hope you heard some great takeaways. Make sure you follow up with our guests today and show them the support they deserve. As always, thank you for listening and playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide.